Hello, my name is Alice Few and I'm with the Tacoma Astronomical Society, and we've put together a quick little video on how to find Comet NEOWISE. So one of the questions that came up on our Facebook page was who gets credited for finding Comet NEOWISE, and NEOWISE was actually found by one of our space telescopes. So it's the WISE, so Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, and the infrared is an important part of that formula because many of the small objects we find in our solar system we can detect first by the amount of heat that they are radiating out, and it's heat that they're receiving from the sun, as opposed to the light that bounces off of them. And so that's kind of important. And along with several other missions, this was supposed to be a 10-month mission that has now turned into a 10-plus year mission. So good job there, WISE. The NEO part of NEOWISE is in one of its wake up and let's get back to work periods. They took the WISE survey telescope and basically said, let's look for things that are coming near Earth. So NearEarth Objects is the NEO part. So in that observation time period where it was looking for near Earth objects, and those would be things that could hit us, like, asteroids and comets, it discovered 262 near Earth asteroids. 47 of those were potentially hazardous asteroids, the things that were in an orbit fairly close to Earth, close-ish to Earth, and part of that was 28 comets. So just as an example, if you actually go and Google NEOWISE comet, right now you're going to get the current comet here in 2020 that was picked up and discovered back in March, but there have been other NEOWISE comets, so just something to think about. The name of the telescope is attached to the finding of the comet. So one of the things that works really well as far as getting set up in the night to go see the comet is getting your bearings and knowing how to find where the comet is in the night sky. We like skymaps.com. It's free. You can get them online. You can get them from every month of the year. You can get them from all parts of the globe. And there's volunteers out there that translate this map into a variety of different languages. So it really is a great service, and they do a fantastic job, and it's free. I like free. So when you get the evening sky map, the map looks like this, the giant circle that you see right here, but don't forget to look at all of the other great information that's on the side and the back of this map. It will give you all sorts of wonderful things to look at. So when you first pick up the map, we tend to hold it this direction because we want to read things that are on there. But what we want to find is off to the north. And if you look at the bottom here, we have the south. And so if you held it straight up and down like this and turned around to the south, then it would be oriented correctly for you to see in the night sky. So what we need to do is flip this map. So there's the map, just the circle part, kind of zoomed in. It's south the way you read it. So if I go outside and I know that I want to be looking in the northwest for this comet, and you can see this dotted line right here shows us the approximate comet locations for these different nights. And I want to be able to find the Great Bear, Ursa Major, right here. So I need to be looking north. So I'm going to turn this whole thing upside down. So north is at the bottom as I'm holding it, and then I can find my north horizon. So if you don't know which way is north, the main thing is look for the asterism of the Big Dipper. So these three stars make the handle, and then this set of stars right here make the cup of the Dipper, right? It's part of the Big Bear, so that's her tail and that's her back saddle, if you thought about kind of her back, or you would sit on a bear if you rode a bear. And then you take these two end stars and you follow them the same kind of width, different distance here out to Polaris. So Polaris isn't necessarily a very bright star, but the nice thing is that there's not a lot of bright stars around it. So it does stand out at night. These stars making up the Big Dipper are brighter than Polaris, so you are looking for something a little bit dimmer. So then once I find that, I can match the stars on my paper map with the stars that are in the sky that I can see. So the Earth is rotating on its axis, so as the night goes along, you're going to see Ursa Major act like a giant clock, and she'll keep walking across our horizon here up in the northern hemisphere, about 47 degrees north, she doesn't disappear. She walks across the horizon, which is very convenient. And so she'll just keep walking all the way around until sunlight. So I'm going to turn my map to match what I see in the sky right now. And so having done that, I can turn looking to the northwest. I've got the asterism of the Big Dipper lined up so it looks just the same way it does in the sky. And so now I can figure out my date and figure out about where that comet is. So her toes, the Ursa Major's feet, come way down here. And the nice thing about this is that the head of the comet, the coma of the comet, is about the same magnitude, just a little bit fainter than her toes. So once I can find her toes, right now, tonight, when I'm looking, I know this comet's going to be right in between her toes. So that helps me determine how far away from the bear's belly I need to look. And it's nice that her feet are kind of bracketing for this week right now. Let's take a look a little bit closer. Another great tool is Skyan Telescope. Has another chart that shows you every day about how far the comet is moving towards the west. And so that will help. So regardless of when you see and listen to this video, you'll know about where to look in the night sky. And as far as your point of view in the sky, it's a little bit more than 2 fingers width, with your arms all the way extended, kind of, between the feet of the bear. So just a little bit less than 2 fingers width. All right. You can do the same thing I'm about to do on an application on your browser called Stellarium Web. I'm going to be using Stellarium, the desktop version, but you can do the same thing on Stellarium Web. You just can't turn on and off things, but it has NEOWISE already loaded in it, so it makes it very convenient. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump on over to Stellarium. All right, so here we are in the live version of Stellarium, and I have Stellarium set up for exactly the same time as I had turned my paper chart to match the sky. So this is kind of what I see, and I've changed the light pollution levels a little bit to match approximately what I could see from my front yard. It is not quite this good, but this is close. Because it does give me the toes here of Ursa Major. So again, you can see how nice and bright the stars in the Big Dipper are, this asterism, and how I can use these 2 instars to find Polaris and then make sure that I've lined myself up and I have all of the right constellation here. So that's Polaris. So this is, again, Ursa Major. There's the big bear, and then there's the little bear, Polaris. And so the asterism sits here, and what I'm really interested in is finding these toes down here. So there's her back set of feet, and here are her front feet. Ursa Major is a big constellation. So if you're up here in the Pacific or in the northern part of the northern hemisphere, so up above 45 degrees north latitudes, you'll be able to see her toes above the horizon. You just need to find a spot where the trees don't get in the way. So sitting right here, I have found those toes, and I can just barely make out NEOWISE sitting right there above the arrow cursor. So let's zoom in a little bit. I'm going to turn off the constellation lines, so we'll just have to remember, so there's her toes, and there is NEOWISE right there. And if I click on it in Stellarium, of course this takes fine-tuned skills, I can see that that is NEOWISE. So you need to let your eyes get a little dark adapted as you do this, and as your eyes get used to the dark and find yourself a shadow, make a shade, an umbrella, anything to keep light out of your eyes, to allow your eyes to dark adapt, for your pupils to get larger so they can bring in more light. You can do this in your neighborhood. You just need to seek out a dark spot. Get your neighbors involved with their masks on. Ask them to turn off their porch lights. Any lights that you can get rid of will help. So let's take a look at this. You'll be able to see it. It's going to be um, the tail might flicker a bit for you, which is kind of an interesting thing. You'll think you see it and then you don't see it. Once you identify that it's where it is and it's right there, try looking away from it just a little bit, and that averted vision helps that tail pop out. And with your arms extended, you're looking at about 1.5 fingers width of between the head of the comet and the tail. I'm going to turn on a pair of binoculars here so that we can see it in binoculars. So if you have a pair of kind of standard 10 by 50 binoculars, this is what you're going to see. Now remember, I've got the light pollution turned up for my area, and so this is kind of what my expectation should be. I can see a very distinct head, or called the coma, and then I have this lovely tail streaming out behind it. And so that's really handy. If you have the advantage of having darker skies, then you're going to see much more of the tail, and it will be much brighter, just naked eye. But the computer program isn't doing it really justice. Let's go ahead, and I think what I'll do is tone down the light pollution so we can just get a better look at it. So just give me a second here. I just took it down one notch. Okay, so I took it down a notch. There are the toes, and there's NEOWISE, and it pops out just a little bit better. All right, and so that's the direction that you should see the streaming of the tail up towards the belly of the bear. So one more time before we go, let me zoom out. Show you that constellation again. Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, find her toes, and right now it's starting to head up towards her back toes. So the other thing that we can do is watch the path and see where it's going to go over the next couple of nights. Alright, so that's where it is right now, and we are on the 21st. I'll put the clock up so that you can see the date and time. We're about at 11 o'clock. And then if I move forward each night, there's the 22nd, the 23rd, and so on. And you can see how it's going to leave Ursa Major, but it's heading towards Arcturus, which is this bright star right here. So let's just turn on the star names so that we can see them. And this is also the constellation Boötes, right there, the herdsman. Let's go back and find the comet, and we can see it moving over towards the base of Boötes. Now, so let me just back it up. And so another thing to do while you're out and looking for this comet is don't forget to turn around and take a look to the south, because if you have those binoculars out to look at the comet, you should really be looking at Jupiter and Saturn as well. So you have Jupiter and Saturn directly behind you. Let's see, turn on the directions for you. It's down to the south. They would be rising right here from the southeast and coming across the sky pretty low. And then this bright red dot you'll see is not Mars, it's Antares, so it's anti-Mars. Alright, so that takes care of some other fantastic things to see in the night sky. And before I get carried away, I think I should stop. So let's come back over here. Alright, so NEOWISE, we're going to go take a look at you tonight. So thank you for listening, and go out and try and find Comet NEOWISE on your own.